Welcome to another episode of Power Alphas. I'm one of your co-hosts, Sabby Piscitelli, and as always, my beautiful, beautiful fiance, Mandy Saccomanno. How you doing, baby?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Besides these allergies kicking my ass right
Yeah.
now. Besides that, eyes swollen, stuff like that. But we're gonna
They're
get
bad
through it.
right now.
We're gonna get
Yes,
through
we
it.
are. And thank you guys for listening. We have a very exciting guest today.
Oh yeah, let's go. I love guests.
Yes. So this guest not only is a very good friend of mine, but I've always admired her dedication to her craft, her passion, her work ethic. Whether it's television, hosting, media, entrepreneurship, fashion, family love, and so much more. I just always admired her and always had a really great friendship with her during our career. So without further ado, please welcome our guest, McKenzie Mitchell.
Hi, Mandy, that
Hi.
was so sweet. Thank you.
Oh,
There she is.
Oh my gosh.
thanks.
Thanks, guys. I'm so excited to be on here. Our schedules finally aligned. I was
I
on a
know.
6-week tour, and so when you were texting me like, "Hey, what's your schedule?" I'm like, "Well, I'm in rehearsals." Well, our call time's at 5
I
p.m. So
know.
it's just been like my life's been crazy. I know your life's been crazy. We catch up when we can, but booked and
Yes.
busy, as we
I
should say,
know
right?
you are booked and busy, and I want to get into that too, obviously. But yeah, I know we've been trying to get together, but I'm glad that you're on, and thank you so much for joining us. So, Mackenzie, you've been obviously very busy, and I want to get into the last few months of you on tour with the Last Match Experience. I want to talk about your brand new business that you started, headlined by McKenzie Mitchell, which I'm wearing one of your rings. Her.
Wow, I
Yay!
like it.
I love
I was gonna
it.
put on the earrings. Yeah.
Representing.
I was gonna put on the earrings, but I always with the headphones, they always get in the way. So I want to talk about your jewelry line that you started. I want to talk about your new show, Threads, that I was on YouTube. So many things. So I want you to just kind of dive into like your life after WWE. Obviously, it's been what, like 6 months since all
Yeah.
that. So yeah. Let us know
Well,
what's new.
I think I was thinking about this the other day, and I'm like, what is it that has kept me going this entire time? Because when you get released from a dream job, you go like, okay, well, hold on, pause, River. What do I want to do now? And where do I go from this? It's really crazy because your whole life changes in just like an instant. And for me, obviously, Vic is still with WWE. So we had this routine, we had this system that was in play. And then for me, it was just like, okay, where do I go? But I think it's been my entrepreneurial spirit that's kind of kept me grounded this whole time and allowed me to just really figure out what it is that Mackenzie wants to do. Um, I think just like figuring out my brand after I was released and just kind of what I wanted McKenzie Mitchell to stand for and where I wanted to go with it. I created my jewelry business in June of last year. So we're coming up on 1 year, which is so wild to me.
Wow. Yes.
And I'm so thankful that I created Headline before I got released from WWE because it still gave me a passion. It gave me somewhere to go, somewhere to really land on immediately once getting released. And then I had my idea of Threads with Mackenzie Mitchell for, I don't know, now almost 6 years, and it just never got put to play. And I decided, if not now, when? So I started creating my YouTube show. You were one of my first guests, Mandy. So I'm so thankful
Yes.
you agreed and were part of my show. And then it's been crazy. I signed on to do the Last Match Experience in February. I just ended my 6-week tour, so that's been wild of living away right after WrestleMania, beginning of April. I signed on. I was in Jersey City for 2 weeks. Then I was I guess it was in Rochester, and then we
Mm.
took down the coast. We did like a tour we were doing a show every night in a
Wow.
different city, and that was wild. So it's really just been, to kind of sum it all up, like I was saying, it's just been my branding and my entrepreneurial spirit that has just kept me going after something so crazy happens in your life, but it's exactly the direction that I needed to go and I wanted to go in.
Yeah, for sure.
Listen, I love that you said that, and I want to piggyback a question I want you to kind of talk about in this podcast a little bit because you just said it. And, when we do this podcast, we're all about relatability. We want people to hear other people's stories. Talk a little about like what you just said. Like, yes, you had your dream job, right? And you probably worked your whole life to get that dream job, and then you got that call that you got released. But talk about your mindset going forward in a sense of, yes, obviously you think, you get depressed, you get down, but obviously you've done very, very well and it opened up a lot of doors. So just give some advice out there to these people listening, because sometimes people think like, oh my God, my dream job, I'm done, I'm fired, life's over. We all have that concept of life. We get down on ourselves, but just kind of dabble into it, like what your mindset was, and look at you now. I mean, you're very successful. So I just want to hear that story. I want people to really hear what you have to say about that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's such a, I think, like I said, it's kind of a halt to the system when you get this routine. Like for me, I was in WWE for almost 5 years. And then once that immediate call comes and you go like, okay, what's next? I
Hmm.
allowed myself to feel every emotion. I allowed myself to be sad some days, to be happy some days, to just be confused. And at the same time, you kind of go like, what's my worth after
Hmm.
being in this company, having a name, having a corporate name over your head for so long,
Hmm.
and you go like, what is it that I can do on my own? And so for me, it was just really going like, I have something to prove to not only myself, but to everybody that's been a fan of mine, to people that are watching me, to people that are my friends and my family, that I can do this on my own and I don't have to have a corporate stigma on top of my name to be successful. And so
Love that.
that's been really that's changed my mentality a little bit, and it's allowed me to just really believe in what I can do. Like I would have never imagined that I would have been doing something that's Broadway-esque, doing a
Yeah.
musical. What in the world? Like what if you would have ever said, "Hey, you're going to do some sort of musical?" Of course it pertains to professional wrestling, but that's kind of the beautiful thing is that it blends all of that together. But I've just been saying to myself now, like, the sky is the limit. I think that sometimes when we get into, I keep saying corporate, but it's so true. When we get into a corporate world, we get stuck in this mentality of just like you're doing the 9 to 5, you're showing up, you're doing your thing. But sometimes you have to break that cycle to just allow yourself to have some freedom and figure out where you go next, internally as well, I think.
For sure. And Mackenzie, I love this about you because I try to preach to a lot of the girls, remember in NXT, I've always kind of said it, but I'll never forget when you called me and you were just trying to pick my brain before you launched Headline, and you were just picking my brain about marketing things, social media stuff. And I always said, I'm like, that's so smart. You were still in WWE, no plans on leaving or, getting released, of course. And you just had this passion and it like a little side business, whether you were going to really take it off while you were still there or maybe for the future or whatever it may be. I just love that you had this vision. And I always tell the girls, just don't keep your eggs all in one basket. And I know these girls, love professional wrestling and it's so amazing the passion that they have. But even if it's something that you maybe will manifest for the future, like maybe you can't do it right now because of the restrictions or whatever it may be, you always had this vision of, and we'll get into it obviously, with Headline and your family and the generations with your grandma and whatnot. So it's like you always had this vision and then you manifested it and you put it to life. And then when you did get that call, it wasn't like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like you just said, you had other opportunities, but then you could like really focus on, your main squeeze right now of focusing on your brand, and all these other opportunities come from that as well because you just have a positive mindset. And I think that's what Sabby and I, always preach about too, is because we all got that call and it is a shitty call regardless. And I remember we talked right after you got that call and I was just very shocked, obviously in the moment as well, because I didn't understand. But it's also one of those things that like, one door closes, another one opens. And like you said, the sky's the limit. So I just love that mindset that you have. And it's so awesome to see another person just like flourishing from after WWE.
And thank you. And for me too, it's like I immediately called you because I
Mm-hmm.
love what you've done with your brand since WWE. It's
Thank
like
you.
we now know Amanda Saccomanno. We don't know just know you as Mandy Rose. And I love to see this transition. And I also so much believe in surrounding yourself with people that are also trying to be motivated and are successful. Like there's something to be said for surrounding yourself with good energy and good people that have a great mindset that are like, I'm going to succeed whether you say no or I'm
Mm-hmm.
out of a corporate world or whatever that is. Um, so I've really been picky with my energy now that I can be picky with my energy and the people that I'm surrounding myself with when it comes to friends and family and things that don't benefit me anymore. I try to keep that out the door rather than bringing that in because it's a choice of mine now, really, that I have my own schedule, my own life, my own motivations.
Yeah. And it's awesome. And we've spoke about it before, and it's sometimes it's bittersweet at times because you build such a camaraderie, you build relationships, and it's an amazing WWE was amazing, and it was excuse me was an amazing job for all three of us sitting here. So you're so grateful, but at the end of the day, it's also one of those like freeing feelings in a sense of like, wow, I can do this, I can do that, and like you said, you never thought you'd be a part of like a musical, but tell us a little bit about the last
Gosh.
match experience. I'm curious.
So so the last match, a professional wrestling rock musical. So it blends all three of these worlds together, which sounds crazy in itself, and it truly is. It's all of these worlds coming together. So all these fans that are watching the show, they're either rock fans, they're musical fans, or they're professional wrestling fans. They did a concept show back in 2022. Matt Cardona was a part of it. And he was really, I mean, he was amazing. He was Alexander Swagger in the original concept. Then they took it on the road, and fired it up. So I was part of this next cast, which I played Scarlet Sublime. She's a 1980s like play-by-play commentator. And what is so different about me being at the commentary desk is you think about the 1980s, you think about the commentary desk today. There's still not a lot of females that are powering the commentary desk. You've seen Beth Phoenix, Renee Young, Mickey James for a little bit doing and being a female at the commentary desk, but that doesn't really exist in today's society. And so with the last match, they were like, we want to kind of change those stereotypes. And at the end of the story, not to give any spoilers, but it's
Mhm.
about female empowerment. The woman ends up helping her husband get the win for the last match. It's a love
Oh.
story. It's a there's actors involved, there's singing involved, there's professional wrestling. It's just so cool. And Jeremiah James, which is the director, he has put his love and his life and everything into this last match production, and I'm really excited to see where it goes from here. I will say being on tour for 6 weeks was one of the hardest things of my life that I've done so far
I
because
bet.
living in a hotel every other day, and just being gone away from family and friends and just like any kind of normalcy. But at the same time, it was such a growing experience and so fun. And I, again, am excited to see where it goes from here. We filmed a docu-series the entire time. So I know they're trying to get that on some kind of streaming service. So we will
Mm.
see, and you guys would see all the layers of what we were doing throughout the entire time of the last match.
That's so cool. I hope they get it on something so we can watch it. So now you finished filming, right? You're done right
We're
now,
done
or
filming. Yeah, we're done filming, and then we're done with tour and everything. So now we just kind of wait. We wait to see. I know we talked about a second leg of the tour maybe in the fall, which would be cool, and go to like California, do Texas, do the Midwest, do like other wrestling cities. We went to Philly, Baltimore, we went to Queens and had a show, and obviously the crowd there just shows out. So
yeah.
it was really awesome to get to see like all the wrestling fans show up and then understand a little bit more of the musical side of things as well. It was an enjoyable experience for everyone.
That's so cool. And I'm sure it was a little, rough being away, but at the end of the day, it's something that you got to experience and just a change of scenery for you, right? For doing what
Right?
yeah, which is so great. So I know you touched on like, being away from home and whatnot and all that. So I know obviously, Vic is our good friend as well, your husband. And how has it been for Vic without having you around at work? I'm, curious.
Well, at first, when I first got released, it was confusing and sad for both of us because, as I've stated, like we had this routine, and every Tuesday we would get up, we'd get ready, we'd go to work, I would be in makeup, he'd start talking to Booker, and then like we'd check in throughout the day. Now it's just so interesting because I'll still watch NXT and support him,
Yeah.
and then at the end of the day, I'll be like, "Hey, how was your day?" And I can relate to a lot of the things that are going on, but I'm not it's like there's a degree of separation there for me too. So I can understand it without having to be involved in what's happening in the day.
Right. Which is kind of nice.
Yeah,
Right.
but it's also just it's so strange because we had developed what we were and who we were as primary voices of NXT, and then
Yeah.
that changing and it becoming somebody else's voice is just it throws a wrench into things. But he's just been so proud of me and everything that I've been accomplishing and what I've been doing outside of WWE. And so it's been really great to have his support throughout the musical too. Like, I mean, who am I kidding? He was watching all the productions. He was coming when he could on
Oh,
weekends. So he's been really supportive. And I'm so proud of him as well. Like I
yeah.
for a while he was furloughed during the pandemic. And then because he was calling Monday night, I guess we should retract. He was calling Monday Night Raw
Yep.
and got furloughed. And then he was the voice of NXT after Mauro Ranallo. And him and Booker have just really found this groove
Mm-hmm.
and people love it. Like we're seeing all this appreciation for him and his commentary and his knowledge in the professional wrestling world that's all being put on social media. And it's time he's finally given his flowers. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
for
He's so
sure.
good at what he's doing, and people are realizing that now.
Yeah, exactly. And he is so good. I mean, the first time I met Vic, I couldn't believe the knowledge he had, let alone in, we always joke around that story. How I had to ask him did I ever tell you that story?
No.
They put me on camera like way back during Tough Enough. And obviously I didn't come from wrestling, so I didn't know all the greats and same with you. I didn't know all the names. And Vic was there. Thank goodness it was Vic. And he helped me because they put me on camera and they wanted to embarrass you like back then, of course. And they asked me like what my favorite match was or something. And I'm looking
No
at
idea.
Vic. Yeah. And I'm like, favorite match. I'm like, and Vic like helped me when he's like, Beth Phoenix. I still don't even remember what he told me. He like told me the whole thing. And I was like
Of
reading a
course he
script.
did,
Remember?
right?
Yeah.
But you know what I even hearing you speak, I mean, you guys are a power couple,
Yeah,
right? And that's the
definitely.
name of our podcast is Power Alphas, right? We that's something that we love to talk about. We look at, Mandy and I, we try to wake up every single day and both be so self-motivated to be successful. And I think in this world, it's hard to find that, in my opinion, with relationships, right? When you have the male and the female in a relationship, just so motivated, so independent, so self-efficient. Just hearing your story right now, I love it because I love that you're so driven to make your own success and not just, either find a man that financially can take care of you. I actually really admire women that have that drive because that's what drove me my whole life. And I think even you see in this society, it's even getting worse when you go down to like Miami or you go to like LA and you see these women that are just I want to find a sugar daddy, I want to find someone to support me, but that is the most emptiest feeling you could ever have in your life. I don't care how you spin it. That woman will never find happiness. She'll never find self-gratification. So for me, I just really admire your work ethic and just listening to you. And congratulations on all the success. And I think it's going to make your guys' relationship stronger because
Yeah.
even though you might not be together physically as much, you guys' mentalities will grow you guys closer and closer. So kudos to that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sabby. I genuinely believe, and I mean, it can sound cliche, but you have to be happy and motivated and believe in yourself before you can believe in someone else. So
100%.
you have to be happy in your relationship, and your other person has to be happy in the relationship before you decide to get together because it's like it's a two-way relationship, right?
Yeah.
It takes two to tango. So it's like you have to have both this great mindset. Otherwise, one's pulling each other down and it's not a 50-50 split. And so I
Yep.
feel like too with me, it's like Mandy, we talked about this and like I have to tell Vic and remind him a lot of the times of like it's so easy to get caught sometimes and just I am WWE. And I try to remind him like you are more than that. There are
Mhm.
so many other ventures that you can partake in. Like he worked in CBS, he like covered the NBA finals. Like he's done so much that I just have to remind that now the outside looking in to go there is life on the outside as well.
So you make such a valid point, and we talk about it,
Yeah.
and we've talked about this before on the show. You're 100% spot on, and let me explain. I want to go two parts of this real quick. Number one, WWE does a good job of brainwashing you guys, everybody, us. When you're there, they make you really feel like, oh, we're the Mecca, we're the top of wrestling, like it's a privilege to be here. And yes, it is a privilege to be there. Don't get that twisted. But they do a really good job of trying to brainwash you like, oh, you need us. But no, you don't. Because let me explain why. For you to even get the opportunity to be involved in WWE from any aspect, wrestling, entertaining, announcing, that means you were already really, really good at your craft. That means you were very successful in the field you were in. So I say we, but all of us that get the opportunity to go to WWE get brainwashed, like, oh my God, I'm at the top pinnacle. Like, if they fire me, I got nothing left. No, that's not true, because you developed so much work ethic and you're so successful in your career, and so is your husband. If he got fired tomorrow, he'd have so many opportunities. And to be honest with you, he'd probably, just wake up and just have a new challenge and be excited about it. So that's why when you were talking about earlier, I kind of cringe sometimes, because I actually watch how WWE brainwashes some of the really young people, because, they go after these young people now. And you're right, 21, 22, that's like their dream to be there. And they're like, oh my God, I'm there, I'm in the Mecca. If they ever fire me, my life's over. No, it's not. Your life's not over. It's actually just beginning. So, and I hope you know that. I know your husband knows that as well. Like, listen, use them as they use you. Because we are pieces of meat. I'm sorry. I had opportunity to be in NFL for years and WWE in two of the biggest sports professional entertainment industries in the world. Okay, I've been at the top and I've been at the bottom of both. And I understand the feeling sometimes of it. And for me, I look at even hearing your story and I get cringe a little bit, because, I went through it and I know that there is a huge light at the end of the tunnel, because we already have that work ethic. We already have that sacrifice, because we were successful, and that's why we got the opportunity to go to WWE. So I just really love that you said that. I just hope that people that are here listening to this understand that there's a lot of life after WWE.
Absolutely. And to Sabby, on top of that, there's a reason that the John Cenas of the world and the Batistas of the world and these superstars come back, right? Because they had a life in WWE. They had a really successful career, but then they went and did movies, and they went and did TV premieres, and they were on red carpets. And then, of course, then they came knocking again and said, hey, come back, here's an opportunity, and maybe here's more money.
Yep.
And so, like, there's something to be said for that, of creating a successful life in WWE, but then at the same time leaving, creating your own brand, and then being able to take your brand into a different division of WWE in a completely different world, in a different category, in a different lifetime. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love that. That's spot
Yeah.
on. And I think who was it? Maybe Daria and I were talking about something like that, like this recently, because everything we always say, it sounds cliche, but everything happens for a reason, right? But it's like also, now all of us are able to do our own thing and work on other things, and you never know what the future brings. I mean, if they called you, I mean, you wouldn't be opposed to maybe going back, or maybe now you have a little bit more leverage in that sense too, because of who you are and the things that you've done and accomplished. And so I do agree with that, and I think that's very spot on and really true.
But at the same time, too, everything's a negotiation, just like you
Yes.
guys. Like, if there was a phone call, great, but I have 3 brands I'm attached to now that I've been able to do on my own and create my
Mm-hmm.
own brand, and really put my head down and just grind, because it's not easy to be an entrepreneur and to own all these businesses and to keep things going. Like, I don't sleep a lot of the time because I'm just doing all of these things to make it happen for myself. But that's the beauty in it as well. So if there was ever a call for me, everything's a negotiation, but I would try to bring the things that I've developed on my own and my brand back in a different way
A
as
hundred
well, where
percent.
I wouldn't lose that ever for
No,
myself.
because that's a part of you. And at the end of the day, they'll always be there, but you have your brands, and that's something that you can do for the rest of your life, right? I mean, you can have headline for the rest of your life. You can grow that business down the road. There's certain things that we sometimes can't do, or like the schedules and the traveling and all that, and having your sanity and your peace. You want to have a family. You and Vic just got married not too long ago. It's like there's so many things you probably do want to do that maybe might have been tough being in that rigorous schedule. So
Sure.
I do love that. That's definitely, it's always negotiable for sure. Speaking of brands, let's talk about headline a little bit.
Let's do it.
Yes.
So my family's been in fine jewelry for 75 years. I have always had a connection to the jewelry industry. My great grandmother and great grandfather started Hubbard's Jewelry in small town Dexter, Missouri, which is where I am now after tour. I
So
wanted to go
cool.
home and see my family, see my nephews, my grandparents, etc. But Hubbard's is still surviving today by my grandmother and by my aunt. They don't have any social media. There's no website. There's no way to shop other than to shop local. And I think there's something special about that as well.
Yeah.
Because everybody now, like, you're on social media, you've got your marketing and whatever. But that's also where my expertise can come in and can help my family. So starting Headline, that was always my goal. Part of my goal was to help create that legacy and continue that legacy of 4 generations of women in business that have been running a small business and figured it out on their own. And so with Headline, it was always my creative outlet. It was a way to connect to my family, but also design pieces and have that creativity go into something and make it productive rather than it just being like, okay, it's a lot of talk and not any action. And so Headline just really has been, it's so special to me. It's just been so amazing to see how far I can go with this and the pieces that come out of my brain
Mhm.
and how I design and land on all of the things that I do. And so I'm still now like I'm creating custom pieces for people. Like Roxanne Perez just wore a custom of mine
I saw
at
it. So
this
cute.
past year. So that's just, it's been really special. And I'm just thankful that I started this business back in June. And it's just like, I can't wait to see what I do with it. I still come home and some of my pieces are at my family store and I take individuals from my family store and make them into something else. And it's no secret that at the end of the day, my grandmother's in her 70s. And so what happens to that inventory when somebody doesn't want to take it on here anymore? And so I feel like that was my responsibility for my family to kind of step up and say like, hey, I'd love to see how I can help play in here for my family. Even if it's, $50 here and there that a piece gets bought, I'm still donating some of that back to my grandparents and my family here in Missouri.
That's so
That's
cool.
really cool.
Yeah, I love that I mean, I could relate a little bit, I feel like, with my dad's deli. Totally too, but like two
Okay.
different things. We have jewelry and food, obviously. But when you
So yeah,
brought up,
you brought up in it, yeah.
yeah, I brought up in it, but also how you brought up the how your grandma and your aunt, like, they're old school. They don't have social media. Like, getting my dad to like go on social media. Well, he doesn't do it. I do it, obviously. Like,
That's right. Exactly. It would be
yeah.
you. That's here. It's
Yeah,
me.
that's me, exactly. But there is something special about like my dad never understood it really, and he still kind of doesn't. But that's why I handle it. But they've been in business for over 30 years, and it's like they never used that back then. Whereas now it's like that's kind of what everyone does, and everyone's online and Amazon and everything. So it's cool that you're able to help them. How does your grandma react to like the social media stuff? Does she just like,
Well,
she's just
she
old
loves
school?
it.
Yeah.
She loves it. I
Oh,
mean, she's still old school in she's writing down orders on pen and paper. Like,
right.
I'm like, what are
I
we
love
doing?
that.
Like, why are we not saving
That's
this
my dad.
inventory
Yeah.
on some kind of document?
That is
I
your
don't know,
dad.
Yeah.
on like a Google Drive or
Mm,
whatever. Like, there's got to be some kind of inventory system that we can do now
right.
digitally rather than it being pen and paper. But she loves it. And so when I come home and I'm like, hey, I think I want to do a pop-up. I'm like, what? I'll tag her in social media or whatever. And then she shares it. And the photo is like halfway cut off. Like my face isn't even showing.
Yes.
It doesn't show the details. So it's just best that I handle all of that anytime that I'm home or however I can help in that way.
Oh,
Um,
that's so
Bless her heart.
sweet. That's
And
awesome.
she like when originally I was like, I'd been pondering the idea of Headline for years. I mean, maybe 2 years before I actually did it. I was on her Facebook page and I'm like, why is she promoting a ruby diamond? Like a ruby on her personal Facebook page? Who's going to buy a ruby off of Jamie's Facebook page? Like that's just not even a thing
Right.
anymore. So I'm like, we need help. Like Mackenzie, you need to help in some regard here. So
Oh, that's so
old
sweet.
school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely old school. I know. I still have, I do a lot for my dad's business in the deli and stuff. And I don't even like tell him like half the stuff I do just because it's like, it's just like a waste because he's just like, oh, whatever. But, I try to show him like numbers. I'm like, Dad, look at like the Yelp because he wasn't even on like Yelp the proper way. I'm like, it's food. Yelp is like the number one thing to be on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so I've helped them a lot, but, I try to get my dad's very old school and like we joke around about it. He's a man of few words, so I always like try to show him like numbers. I'm like, Dad, look how many views this got. He's like, oh, nice.
Dude, your dad still
Savvy
writes
imitates
like
it.
his dad still writes like holiday orders like 2 weeks out and puts them on a bulletin board
Oh yeah.
with like a little a
Right.
bullet pin.
I got
And I'm
him.
like, bro, they're gonna blow away.
Oh, you were dying during the holidays. There were papers everywhere, and it's just how he, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, so I get
Yeah, I
that. But
guess so.
he's so organized like that he gets mad if it's like any other way. but like I bought him a laptop. I don't think
I don't think he's even opened
he
it.
hasn't opened it. I wanted to get him on Excel at least for like P&L and just like for stuff. And he just, and you know, I mean, he's got to learn, but he's just too funny. They're just stuck in their ways a
Yeah,
little.
but you know what? If you do something for so long, it's hard to transition another way,
It
right?
is,
Like even
yeah.
though to us it looks like it's chaotic, but to them it's not. It's their system.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
you got to understand that too.
Definitely. No,
Totally
that's
right.
awesome, Mackenzie. With I love your jewelry. I think it's, you know, what's so great about it, and I think I've told you this, is that it's so different and edgy, and like you don't see it like in. I mean, you know, there's jewelry everywhere, right? But it's just so different. Like you make it different. Like it's not just like, you know, a chain like that I'm wearing right now. Like you just make it like, you know, there could be more costume style. It could be more for just like cute, trendy little things. So I just think it's really cool, and I'm really happy that kicked off for you. So
Thank you. And two, that was like the goal with it as well, is like we were on TV for how long? So it's like you have
mhm.
to create bigger, bolder pieces that make a statement. And that's kind of the tagline of the company, is you are the headline, like you were the statement, you were the main character. And so that was where I had that idea of creating these big statement pieces that really that make a statement when you're on television, or if you're at a red carpet, or if you just want to get dialed up and like dressed up and go to dinner with your husband, like the same thing, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I've been like lacking on creativity a little bit because I have been so busy in my other life, but I think it's a balance. Like at the same time, you have to have that balance in your mind. Like I said this the other day, and I feel like it's so true. I feel like my brain is like a computer, and I've got like 30 tabs open right now. And so, okay, what tab
Yeah.
do I need to go to at this exact moment? Great, I can accomplish that, this, close it out, and then go on to the next tab. It's like my brain is like trying to
Yeah.
realize all of these things, and I'm juggling all of these things, but it's proving to pay off in the long run, having all these businesses, having all this branding, all these ventures I've got going on. It helps me for sure.
For sure. And Sabby and I always talk about just having, you know, I think keeping busy is a huge thing. And like, you know, we all have our moments where sometimes we may get, you know, sad or depressed, or maybe our mind starts going. And I feel like keeping busy, and that's what I've been doing since my release as well. But it's like the more things we can just get ourselves into or stay busy and on a good routine, the better our mindset is. And I mean, that's how I react the best from that, just by staying busy and just, you know, less of your mind going places that you don't want it to go to, in a sense,
Totally.
which is
Absolutely.
really cool. And then I want to talk about your YouTube series, Threads, that I was on. Tell us a
Yay.
little bit about Threads and where that idea came from, because I think that's also a really amazing creative idea that you came up with for YouTube,
Thank
especially.
you. So I came up with Threads, the idea and the concept, about 5 years ago when I was in WWE. I pitched it, I pitched it, I pitched it in so
Oh,
many different
really?
ways, for Snapchat, for Instagram, for a YouTube show. Like I had pitched it over and over and over and just kept getting no. Um, and I actually filmed a pilot when I was in WWE with Johnny Gargano. The content was amazing. Like we had so many untold stories. I was so thankful and lucky that he was like, "Yeah, let's film this pilot," because it obviously went nowhere. That content still lives in the archives somewhere in WWE.
Wow.
Um, and so we filmed it, and then that was in February of last year, and then I got released in December. And so it was just like, okay, it didn't happen in WWE, but we all know that would have had kind of their creative spin on it. So now with Threads on my own, I'm able to have full creative control of my show and what I wanted it to feel like, and the aesthetic and the way it looked and everything together. Um, so Threads is like a fun conversation that pulls back the curtain a little bit with like celebrities, professional wrestlers, athletes, stars, and just talks about iconic looks from iconic moments in the past. I think there's so much to be said for creating a persona, creating a character, that's seen weekly on television or even on the weekends at house shows, but it's creating this overall look of who this person and this character is and who they're perceived as. But nobody was talking about it. We were only talking about the moves in the ring and what they were saying rather than the look itself.
Yep.
And I thought that was really interesting because that's something that I always gravitate to, is the ring gear and how even the hairstyles and the makeup play into a part into television. So when
Absolutely.
Yeah.
started creating
Absolutely.
this, yeah, thank you. So when I started thinking about this and I saw a round table, it was Randy Orton, Finn Balor and AJ Styles talking about the Intercontinental Championship. And this would have been like 2019 when I first came up with the idea. They didn't care about talking about the Intercontinental Championship. They cared about a mishap in Randy's gear of like something that split or something that didn't work out. And they went on like a diatribe for like 5 to 10 minutes talking about this and making fun of each other and like having genuine conversation and laughs.
Yep.
So when I saw that, I was like, this is what people care about. This is what allows us to be humans rather than it just being a character that's not attainable and you can't really relate to them on television. And so that's the original idea and how that kind of came to life. And then I just started it February 1. Mandy, you were my second episode. My first episode was Matt Cardona. And like I learned so much about my guests every time I have them on. And that's cool for me anyways, because you and I are friends, Amanda.
Yep.
And then like we got to have you on the show, and then I learned about like your wings and how your wings came from Party City. Like,
Party City.
who would have ever thought?
You're right. Yes.
So yeah, it's just been really great, and I actually am going to start doing an audio version of it as well because it's just been so successful so far. And so it's just I know it was a visual show. It is a visual show, but I think there's something to be said for the conversations that are also had in audio form. So I'm just so proud of having an idea, being told no a million times, and then being able to still do it and make it my priority and do it on my own and do it how I want it to be done.
Yeah. And
So
that's
I'm very excited for that.
That's awesome. And how you just said how you wanted it to be done. And I think what I took from that is like, yes, you were told no, but we all know if they said yes and they did it in their, their creative way they wanted to, you wouldn't have much of a say, really, to be honest. You'd have a little bit of say, but
Totally.
it would be theirs. And then, so I think everything happens for a reason. I think it's kind of a blessing they said no. And, then it came to life afterwards and you had no, you had no idea where your life was going to take you at that point anyway. But it's such a cool concept. And I really do think like even one of our episodes, I talked about my really bad situation during the Elimination Chamber with my hair and like it was just the whole like it was just a shit show, right? Yeah, my teeth. And like Daria just said to me the other day too. She's like, everyone talks about that clip that you guys did because they were dying because it was so real and like it's something that the fans don't see and they just love to hear the funny stories that happen that like you said, we're just people. We're humans.
Well, it's relatability.
It's relatable,
They want to be able to relate to it and laugh because, oh, that happened to me before, right?
Yeah, and like how silly I looked with the lipstick on my teeth and the hair. I was just a hot mess.
I really feel like all the female superstars has a lot more on the line when it comes like, like just costumes and their makeup's got to be right, their hair's got to be right. Like, my character was real simple. Real short trunks,
little trunks,
knee pads, and some nice boots. Like, you guys have just so much that goes into that. So there's a lot of room for error too there. You know what I'm saying?
Trust me, there's so much room for error. Yeah.
But you think about too, like even some of the guys, like if their pants split or if they're wearing a suit or
right.
like
Yep.
Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch right now, like the costumes and what they've been wearing on a weekly basis is so absurd, but at the same time, you go like, oh, what are they doing? I want to watch what they're doing because I want to see what they're wearing on a weekly basis.
True. Very true.
And somebody said this the other day that they were like, I feel like it takes someone longer to find good wrestling gear than to learn how to wrestle because you go through all these processes of like, oh, I think I can wear this. Yeah, that didn't work. Like, oop, my boob came out. Or, oh, I think I wear these shorts, but they didn't really work because they weren't made properly. Or
you're so right.
The way that feels in the ring, or does it slide down on me? Like there's so many things that come together that a fan would never know. They just think like, oh, you just go out there. But imagine if everybody went out there in just leggings and a t-shirt or whatever, there would be no appeal of a superstar. Everybody would look the same. It wouldn't have any difference of who a person is or who a character is.
But I think that's exactly what the entertainment business is, right? And I think people don't put enough emphasis on that. Like you just made a great point. Yes, they come for the wrestling in the ring, but you come for the costumes. You come for what they're wearing, how they present themselves. It's the whole package you're getting when you go to a WWE event. So you're absolutely right. But As we wind this down, I always ask all our guests this question. Obviously, you've been successful before WWE, in WWE, and now after WWE, which is very amazing. So I always ask all our guests, for anybody who's listening out there, what's some advice you would give going forward? What's some words of wisdom that maybe somebody just got released a month ago, or somebody's trying to chase their dreams? What would be your best advice for the work ethic aspect of life and following your dreams?
Well, I think for me, it's been a constant battle of you want to get to this point, but how do you get to this point? And I worked really dang hard to get to my job in TNA, to then to get to my job in WWE, to then have a career on television. And I didn't say no to any opportunity. I think that there's something to be said for, yes, in today's society, we want to make the most money in the easiest way possible, right? I think that there's something to be said for the younger generation of just doing something, and maybe it's not to their best ability. It could be half-assed, sorry, excuse my language, but it's like, oh, I want to make that money quick, even if it's not done properly. But there's still something to be said for putting a full hat on and going like, I'm going to do this to my best ability, and I'm going to take
Absolutely.
every meeting. And it may not be the person that I have a meeting with first that lands me my job, but it's the person that they connect me to that ends up landing my
Mm-hmm.
dream
Hmm.
job. So it's there's something to be said for just really putting your head down and learning something, and just sometimes people will say no, but at the same time, like, just taking those meetings, even if it's unpaid and you're not getting money out of it, but there's experience that you're gaining or a connection that you're gaining from that. It's just being able to really push through and believe in yourself and go, I don't know where this is going to land me, but I know I have my dream in mind. I know what I want to do, and I know and how I'm going to get there is just by taking those meetings, having that experience, and sometimes being okay with people saying no to me.
Awesome. Great
Love that.
answer.
That's so great. Yeah, it really is. Thank you, McKenzie, so much for joining us on Power Alphas. We really appreciate having you. And thank you guys for listening. We are also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, OFTV. So make sure you tune in, and we'll see you guys next time.